Okay, so today we are reviewing Springbank 15 Year. Is it as good as the 10 year? Is it worth all the hype? Is it worth the cost? We're gonna find out right now. My whiskey journey has taken me to Scotland and back. I've explored whiskey education, tastings, and distilleries from Islay to Speyside. And now my journey continues here, with you, on Whiskey Whereabouts. Okay, so first things first, this 15 year is also 100% Oloroso sherry matured. The 10 year is 60% bourbon, 40% sherry. And boy, can you tell when you look at the color of this whiskey, especially compared to that 10 year, you can see how dark it is. It's almost the color of coffee. It is obviously not colored. Springbank, no chill filtration, 46%. The boxes are checked. This bottle, which is well below the shoulders at this point, has been open for almost exactly 2 months. And this dram has been sitting in this glass for more than 30 minutes. And what we have learned on the channel is how important it is to let these Springbanks breathe, to open up after you first open them and in the glass while they sit. If you haven't seen it, check out my video following up on the Springbank 10 year 3 months later. I'll link to it so that you can check it out. And I will be honest with you, when I first opened this bottle, I was a little disappointed with the way that the whiskey presented. There's a lot going on. I didn't feel like it was really in balance, and I didn't panic because we've been down this road before, right? We know how demanding this whiskey can be. It needs to sit, it needs to open up. Now it's had that opportunity, and we're gonna dive in to see how this whiskey is gonna present on the nose. And the first thing that is a big difference here is this is a whiskey. Springbank is in Campbeltown. You will hear people describe Campbeltown funk, Springbank funk. That is an element of the profile of these whiskeys. And it's here. And to me, it is almost tropical, but pretty sweet, especially with the sherry influence. Kind of like plantain almost, like a sort of sweet, but still kind of tropical, really ripe element. And when I first poured the neck pour in the glass and sampled this whiskey, that was all I was getting. And now it's in the mix. And what it's in the mix with is the sweeter elements. So there's a bit of that sherry here in this nose, but it is subtle and it's balanced with some other more exotic elements that you're not expecting from those traditional sherry bombs. This is not Glenallachie 15 year or Tamdhu 15 year. It's Springbank. There's a lot more going on here, and now that I've had it, let it breathe, it's much more integrated now. What I'm getting in the sweetness is a real sort of chocolate. This is a moderately peated whiskey. There is a sort of toasty element. It's not smoky at all. It's very subtle on the nose, and I think it's sort of combining in with that chocolate element, giving it a kind of a darker chocolate. There's dried fruit, there's a raisin, the things we expect from the sherry matured whiskey. There's a mintiness intertwined with the chocolate, and there's something else that's a little bit more almost metallic, kind of polishy, that is underneath it, but these things are pretty well in balance. Okay, on the palate, when I first had this whiskey, it was all sherry on the palate. There really wasn't room for a lot of the other sort of flavor elements to breathe. The sherry element's still there, but it is balanced out. There's a sort of stack of different flavors going on. So much more complex than you think of those sherry bombs. I did a Tamdhu, the cask strength, so sweet, so sherry bombed. This is not that. 15 years, all sherry casks, but it's Springbank. There's so much else going on here. So what's going on here? First thing is the peat is coming in now. It really is subtle, and it's just more coloring the flavors on the nose. Here, it's not smoky yet, but you're getting that sort of lively, kind of ashy, almost bordering peppery. It's there. You can tell it's there. There's a nuttiness. Very welcome. delicious. There is a chocolate, and there is a tanginess to it, but it is turned way, way down. Now it is a complementary flavor, and it's now in balance again. And on the finish, we're kind of going, what I think, up a level from the palate. It's long. It's the biggest influence of the peat now. Now you've got a legitimate sort of flavor from the sort of smokiness from the peat, and it's really dark chocolate now. And it's really blending together. When you first pour it, it's almost vegetable almost. Now it is part of the dried fruits complemented with something ripe, something that isn't the usual sherry profile. So, does this whiskey live up to the sort of Springbank hype? It delivers, and it does all of the things that you expect a Springbank to do. It really needs you have to come to Springbank on Springbank's terms. And if you do, you will be rewarded. But you cannot pop the cork on this bottle, pour yourself a glass, sit down in your chair, and start drinking and just be transported by how great Springbank is. This thing needs to breathe. We know what the air does to it. We're going to find out what the water does to it. Give a few little drops and just see. This one's already well opened up. It's been sitting for a while. And it's only getting sweeter with the water. It's really blossoming. Yeah, this is the closest this nose has been. Having got a lot of air, now it has the water, and it's really getting that sherry nose. There's more going on here, and the more you nose it, that sherry wafts away, the sweet, and when I say sherry nose, I'm talking about almost a brown sugar sweet, baking spice and raisin, that type of, that whole profile. Well, it certainly hasn't helped the mouthfeel. It's so much lighter on its feet now with the air and the water. There's still plenty going on. The finish just keeps going. It's still there. Even with the water, the finish is still sitting there. It has that smokiness. It's wrapped around the sweetness. It's more of a sort of a dark fruit jammy sweet now. And there is tangy bordering on bitter. It's like the dark chocolate's been sort of deconstructed, and plenty of room for the fruit. The fruitier that turns a little ripe, a little tropical, along with the dark fruits that we're getting from the sherry. It certainly opens it up as sweeter. It certainly is something that isn't going to ruin the whiskey. It doesn't need it, but it's really sippable with the water. A little bit more sweeter, a little bit more user-friendly. It's not the sherry bomb, but the sherry is so powerful of a force. I think it's too much sherry relative to the 10-year. For my preference, it's not bad. Is it worth the cost? Well, I paid $169 for my bottle of the Springbank 15 year. But if you notice, I pulled out the 10-year. This one's smaller because this is a UK size bottle. It's a 700 ml bottle, so it's about 93% of the size of this bottle, and I'm still paying $170. Most 15 years, higher sort of cost 15 years are going to be topping out in that $150 range. Is that extra money worth it to, if you're already in the market for that? Absolutely. It's certainly complex enough. It's certainly worth investing in. It needs to sit. It's worth the wait. It's a great whiskey. I don't think that I like it as much as I like the 10-year. This is a very rich, very complex, fully sherried whiskey, and it's kind of unlike anything that you're going to encounter in this space. I don't think it has quite as many complementary flavor elements all in play and all perfectly balanced like the 10-year has, but it is an accomplishment. It's absolutely worth it. It costs a little bit more than the equivalent 15-year sort of whiskey. Springbank costs more to make. They do it the old ways. It's higher cost, and these are really in demand. So if you can get it anywhere near its sort of list value, it's worth the investment. 4.5 glasses. If you enjoyed this video, hit this button to subscribe so you don't miss any videos coming in the future.